Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hey, I'm DJ Ross in Mountain View, California.
Each week on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week, that list includes Final Fantasy VII Remake, Florence, PC Building Simulator, and Good Pizza, Great Pizza.
The classic lineup tonight.
So is that
this morning, whenever you're listening to this?
Yep. Is that one game, Good Pizza, Great Pizza? That's the entire title of the game? Or...
I played the whole series, the whole pizza series.
Oh.
I'm waiting for the pizza remake to come out in a few years.
Good Pizza, Great Pizza 7 Remake.
Final Pizza.
Also, I should mention that I beat Slay the Spire.
Oh, you did? Amazing.
I did, finally, after how long? Geez, last summer, right? Of throwing myself at this freaking Spire over and over and over again. Finally got to the top, beat the final boss. And now I have to do it all over again.
Yeah, now you can do the Ascensions.
Ascensions, yes, with more elite bosses.
Which character did you beat it as?
With the Silent? Was that the no? The woman with the skull head that throws knives and poison.
Yeah, that's right. That's the Silent.
It's the Silent, yeah. Silent has never been my go-to character. I usually play the one that does the lightning balls.
Oh, really? The Silent's like my go-to.
Oh, excellent.
The lightning ball, characters like that just feel like they never appeal to me for some reason. They just feel like they're so gimmicky. Not in a bad way, but just in a way that I don't want to deal with.
Yeah. So I mean, I think my save says I have something in the ballpark of 65 hours with this game, which is crazy, and to have finally beaten it, and immediately upon beating it, started over again and tried to beat it one more time. So, it's so good. I would totally recommend this game. It's such a great time.
One of my friends keeps me up to date on the status of pro Slay the Spire or whatever is going on in that community.
Oh, and
I believe the most recent development, but there was a world record attempt for the number of consecutive 20th. I think there are 20 Ascensions.
Wow.
So the number of consecutive 20th Ascension victories in a row. The guy did 9 and I think failed on the 10th one, which is unbelievable because it's tough to beat that game just at the bottom, very vanilla level.
Oh yeah. I mean, it took me 60 hours just to beat it. So
yeah.
Yep.
And then for the uninitiated, when you do an Ascension, it just tacks on some incredibly punishing modifier onto your game. So I think you mentioned you get more powerful elites or you have fewer resources, but they just keep compounding on top of each other. So just 20 of those, and then still got through the entire game 9 times without dying.
Wow. Yeah, this game, this is a deck building game. Essentially, you have a character that is trying to climb a spire, and each floor presents a unique challenge, be it some enemy, or a little scripted kind of interaction where you kind of gamble some coins for an unknown outcome, or things like that. So, and there's a merchant you can stop and get, or you can rest at fires on your way up the spire. And at the fire, you have the option to heal for a percentage of your health back to you, or you can forge new cards, improved cards. You can make a card in your hand better. There's everywhere you go, every step you take, every kind of room you're in, you're making new choices, and this whole kind of delicate balancing act of push pull, give and take, risk reward, that really kind of only emerges, as something that I'm capable of doing in maybe its 40th hour of continuing to throw myself at it. I think I started.
There's a lot you have to kind of learn and internalize all the different systems coming together.
Yeah. I think my initial strategy was like, I'm going to collect every card. I want every card in the deck. I need all of them. And that's the only way that I will be sort of unstoppable. And r/Slay the Spire on Twitter, on Reddit has a very different perspective. And it's you run with as few cards as possible. You keep your deck really lean with a few cards that you know are heavy hitters, so that you can kind of reduce the likelihood or increase the likelihood of something good always coming up in your hand and not getting stuck with garbage. So yeah, I really had to fight the urge to just buy every card I could get, collect every card every time I had an opportunity to, and really just kind of keep that deck lean so that I knew what every shuffle was going to end up sort of giving me something that was useful.
I feel like you learn that lesson eventually after you put a few really appealing cards into your deck, and then you just keep drawing like the basic like strike and block cards. And you're just like, oh, I wish it was that other card.
Yeah, 3 damage, 3 damage, 3 damage. I'm like, all right, well, there's got to be something better in this hand, right? Yeah, yeah.
Well, anyway, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
impressive.
Yeah.
Really good game. I should be playing it more, but I've been playing a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, I took a break at it because I was tired of not beating it, and
that seems like that's not going to help you
beat it. Yeah, but went back to it during PAX. Actually, I had it on my Switch with me as I was traveling to and from, and kept playing, and felt myself getting better and better and better. And I was like, oh, it's within grasp. And then finally over the weekend, got there. Felt really good about it. Yeah, thank you.
Next stop. Spelunky.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Spelunky is still not on the Switch somehow. I was overhearing some conversation this weekend. Like, why? What's the deal with that? Where is it?
Yeah, seems like a big oversight.
Yeah. The kind of feeling is that maybe they're holding out for whenever they make the next big Spelunky 2 announcement, and then they will drop a Switch port of the original at the same time.
Here's all the Spelunkies, yeah.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
So, what do you want to do next, DJ? Good pizza, great pizza. What is this?
Good pizza. No, let's save that one.
No, save that one.
I want to talk about the game that is on everybody's minds this week.
Florence.
Yeah, Florence. What's up with Florence?
No, we do Final Fantasy. That's what you mean, I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So. Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Mm-hmm.
The demo came out.
Mm-hmm.
You played it.
I did. I played it and you played it. I played it because you made me play it.
I didn't really make you play it.
Strongly suggested.
I encouraged you to maybe check it out.
Right.
I mean, it's like a popular game. People want to hear about this game, probably.
I am here to play all the popular games.
I figure, yeah. This is a great, very low investment way to get you to check out one of these games finally. So, very convenient that it came along. I was going to do a whole bit where I didn't actually play the game, and I was going to just make you describe it.
Just make me describe it?
Yeah, but no, I eventually got through the whole thing.
And we should mention that we don't actually have access to the entire game. It's just the demo that is available currently on PS4, which is what? Sort of the first chapter, right, of the game? Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's like the first thing that happens in the game. It's like the bombing mission. If you play the original, it's this was also the demo they released for the original Final Fantasy VII, which is kind of funny.
Mako Reactor 1.
Yeah, it kind of follows that they would just put out a demo of the same stuff in the remake.
It's a demo of the demo.
Yeah.
Or a remake of the demo.
A remake, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But so I suppose this is probably interesting to you at the very least, DJ, because I've never really played a Final Fantasy game before.
Yeah, and what a weird place to start.
Pretty limited exposure to Final Fantasy. I have certainly spent a lot of hours of my life listening to you and Paul tell me about Final Fantasy games,
yes.
But have had pretty limited hands-on time with them myself. So I don't know. I had kind of odd expectations rolling into this. And when Cloud Strife shows up, hair askew, with his massive sword, I was like, this is about what I expected. I think this is pretty much where I thought this was going to go. And yeah, and you have a band of rogues that you are traveling with. You are a hired mercenary, a former soldier, and you are in a ring city that is powered by Mako reactors, and apparently Mako is sort of Earth essence. These are giant reactors that are kind of pulling energy out of the center of the Earth. Yeah, so I got kind of like, there's kind of an environmentalism kind of vibe to this, and these are like eco-warriors. Although, the game doesn't really sort of hit that very hard, at least in this first chapter. But I thought that was kind of an interesting place to sort of come from for a Final Fantasy game.
It's definitely a weird premise. Even though like Final Fantasy mixes up its cast every single time, it's usually been like, a group of like knights or weird, adventurers in some kind of fantasy world, and then suddenly
a boy band.
Oh, boy band. They got to that point eventually. But in this one, they're just like, oh yeah, so this one you guys are going to be like eco-terrorists in this very, like, not really steampunk. It's kind of modern looking scenario.
Yeah.
And the first thing you're going to do is go and plant a bomb in this nuclear reactor, essentially.
It is a little more sci-fi than I think I was anticipating. I think I generally associate Final Fantasy with being fantasy. It's right there on the tin. It says what it is on the tin. And I expected, chocobos and elf-like people and woodland creatures, and it's a sad city. It's dreary and rainy and gray all the time, and the sky is choked with pollution, and everybody has guns, and there's robots everywhere. And I was like, well, this is a lot more sci-fi than I think I was anticipating.
Yeah. There's always been a little bit of a sci-fi element, even in like going back to the original Final Fantasy, but this is by far, like, especially at the time when it came out, it was the most sci-fi by a wide margin the series had ever been. Which was exciting, and I think it was a lot of the appeal to kind of new players who were curious about the series when it came out.
Yeah, that's fair. Is it where does Final Fantasy VII sort of live in your kind of pantheon of Final Fantasy games?
You mean just in terms of like my favorites?
Yes. Yeah.
It's up there. It's probably, I'm not expecting you to do this live. It's probably like top 5.
Okay. No, really I wouldn't dare try to corner you on your favorite Final Fantasy games in order, but...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's good. I generally have very fond memories of it. I was super hyped for it when it came out. I remember liking it quite a bit. If there's any like reservations I have about it, it's that it is just so popular. It has been just kind of like put on a pedestal, and everybody is like, oh, Cloud and Sephiroth, or how will they ever make another Final Fantasy game that comes close to this? And I'm just like, well, I don't know if it was that good. It was still pretty good, but
it's the first experience I've had with a game that does kind of a mix of turn-based with real-time. Because
that's new in this remake.
Oh, really? Okay, that's not, because I thought the active time battle thing was a Final Fantasy thing.
Well, okay, yeah, that's true. It always has been somewhat real time to an extent, but not. I mean, this is like, you could confuse it for being an action game, or is it an action game? It kind of is.
Kind of is, yeah. It's definitely a lot speedier than... I'm also sort of playing more Dragon Quest XI right now, and it's much speedier than kind of your average interaction in Dragon Quest XI.
Yeah, well, so what active time battle means is when they introduced it, it was not like Dragon Quest where everybody, you give them their commands, and after you're done doing that, the enemy has been waiting patiently the whole time, and then you just like take your turns, and you do all your moves together. But with active time, basically everybody would have the active time gauge, which is in this as well. And it would gradually fill up individually for each character. And when it was full, you could take your turn and you would just go. So it meant that as you are like issuing commands to your guys, like the enemies are actually able to take their turns and stuff like that. So if you have like fast characters on your team, or on the other team, you could just be doing stuff all the time.
Yeah, and you're kind of you can sort of spike the meter. You can pick up more time available for you to do kind of bigger and showier moves that have a bigger impact by whacking minions with your giant sword, or switching to a different character who has access to a giant hand cannon, and using him to shoot out turrets and robots that are stalking you and stuff like that. So I think the sort of lesson that I got later in the demo is to push, be more kind of assertive in gameplay instead of my instinct from Dragon Quest XI is to sort of measure my choices carefully, weigh all of my options, explore, okay, well, if I heal this round, I could probably survive another 2 without healing again, and in those 2 I can probably do 30 damage each, and like there's no kind of upper level kind of plotting involved in Final Fantasy VII. At the very least, it is really just about, like I said, kind of just pushing for the biggest impact you can get, and then trading in the time battle points that you've kind of earned for bigger moves to kind of take down your enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I actually really like this spin on the battle system that they've done in this. It feels like the original Final Fantasy VII feels much closer to kind of the Dragon Quest style of combat than the remake does. And I was like, before they had revealed how the battle system was going to work, I had a hard time envisioning a game that looked like this using essentially the old school like Final Fantasy active time battle, where it still looks very turn-based and feels very turn-based. But I was also like not really sure what the battles were going to be like, because they had showed some footage that looked very much like it was a straight up action game, like Kingdom Hearts or Bayonetta or something. And I was like, I don't know if I want that either, because I don't think that would feel like the original game to me. So what they ended up doing, I think, is really clever, because you can like play the game a little bit like an action game. You have that like immediacy and responsiveness to all the characters, and it's fun to maneuver them around the battlefield and do combo attacks and things, but then you still can take a break to use your active time skills every once in a while once you charge them up.
Yeah. I liked it. It definitely it took some getting used to. There was a ton of little tutorials that popped up on the screen, and a lot of it involves you kind of switching between 2 different characters and kind of like using somebody's kind of skills and abilities, and then they go into cooldown and you cycle to their partner and beat up the enemy a little bit with him until they go into like a stagger mode, which means they're kind of defenseless for a moment and kind of knocked back. And then kind of, again, swapping between the 2 characters that I had access to in the demo, trying to figure out who could sort of, impact the biggest attack during that stagger period to hopefully wrap up this crazy battle quickly. It was fun. It was I had a good time with it. I thought it was a challenging combat system that I think with a longer time with it, I probably could feel like a bit of a master of the universe, swapping between different characters.
Yeah, I went back and forth between feeling like it wasn't like I wanted to be deeper, like more towards the like Bayonetta side of things, where you just have to think more
combo based.
Do you think a lot in Bayonetta? I don't know. Maybe
you gotta know those combos, man. In Bayonetta, that's the most amount of thinking I think just goes into sort of memorizing like all the different series of buttons and trigger pulls to chain those together for bigger impact.
Like in this one, at least as far as the demo goes, he really only Cloud anyway had like a couple of sword attacks, and you could switch to like a heavier stance,
right?
Which was not quite what I was expecting, but I don't know. At the end of it, I was just thinking like I felt like I was not playing very effectively against the bosses that showed up, and I was just wondering if there was something I was missing about the battle system that would have helped me out. But I think it was a good first exposure to it. I was pretty happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, I don't think you need to be embarrassed for recommending it.
Oh, that you play this game?
Yeah. I thought the combat part was the best part. I think anytime it slowed down and it was characters talking to or yelling at each other, that was much less fun.
That part I wasn't a huge fan of.
Yeah, there is a character on your team in this demo who is sort of unnecessarily aggressive at the wrong times. And
talking about Barrett,
yeah. And really just yells at you through the entire game, and at least for the entire demo, and that wasn't fun.
He's just real antagonistic towards Cloud the whole time.
Yeah.
Which is, it's been a long time since I played the original. He was always kind of like, Cloud's the merc. Don't know if they can trust this guy at the very beginning. But he's just like in the remake demo, he's just like you hired this guy. Why are you acting like this toward him the whole time?
Yeah. And there is a thing that happens in anime a lot, and apparently it happens in this Final Fantasy remake a bit too, where through some sort of state of the way that they dub English over the cutscenes and interactions, it ends up with a lot of like, kind of like noises that the characters make. Like that's somebody will say something to another character, and rather than sort of like, I don't know, allowing it to be quiet or issuing a response, the character will go, ugh. And I don't understand why. I don't get it. It just seems really jarring to me, and every time it happens, it just takes me out of the experience.
That is something that I really wish they would like focus on when they're doing the localization for these things, because like you said, I think it's a very common thing in like Japanese games or anime, like the way those are voice directed, but it's really just not a thing in Western media, and it just feels very artificial and kind of stilted.
Yeah, I think they're trying to convey sort of confusion or isolation or something with a noise rather than with, good direction or good art. And I think, that seems annoying to me.
Incidentally, if you want to hear Nolan North doing that a lot, you can play Final Fantasy 12 because he definitely does that.
Oh, really? Nolan North, a fine voice actor. I'm sure that was just how he was told to do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, total professional, just doing what he's told.
Yep, exactly. I don't know. I sort of wrapped up this demo thinking, that wasn't too bad. I would play more of that.
Yeah. I just think, like, I'd probably play more of it. I'm not dying to, like, revisit this game. Especially because, as much as I like the battles and everything, the cutscenes, or not even the cutscenes, but just like everything that happens between the battles, whether it's like your squad talking to each other as you are making your way through the reactor, just kind of felt like, the graphics and everything, the effects look amazing. They've come a long way since 1997, but like, has the writing or like the voice acting, and there wasn't voice acting in the original, but I think the fact that everything is voice acted now really underscores just how kind of like mediocre and just not great all the dialogue is.
Better you say it than me, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. There's so many other RPGs I want to play that to sort of play one that has, it's kind of a cool, unique, battle mechanic. When everything else sort of seems a little antiquated and goofy, is probably not going to get me there. Particularly, I'm doing a little kind of Googling on this game afterwards. Apparently, the remake for 7 is being split across 2 games.
Oh, at least 2.
At least 2.
All we know is that this thing that comes out in a month, or when does it come out? Soon.
April something, 10th, yeah.
Yeah, is not going to be the entire game like that came out on PlayStation 1.
So yeah, I'm not down for that either. So I'm certainly not going to spend $120 to $180 on this game. So
yeah, I'm gonna wait for the full thing. Probably if I ever get around to playing this.
Yeah. Plus, I have a lot of things going on in April.
Yeah. As we've discussed.
Yep.
Man. well, I'm glad you liked it. I'm impressed,
it was fine.
Actually.
Yeah, it was fine. It was not awful. It was not a terrible experience. There were moments of it that were genuinely fun. I had a really good time with it. Yeah. So
I keep coming back and thinking to myself, like, even after this whole thing comes out, even after every episode is available and people can play the full remade experience, is it going to be good enough, or is it going to just land well enough with people that they will stop playing the original? Because I feel like it's if you're going to do a remake like this, you should really be attempting to create the definitive version of this thing. Or at least
will
that's my
this
philosophy.
sort of usurp or take the place of the original Final Fantasy and sort of people's appreciation of that game?
Yeah. And I don't know. It's very different from the original.
Yeah. Is there another... Well, because the Resident Evil games are kind of getting this treatment now, and it seems like those have turned out really well, and people seem to really like them. Is there another classic Final Fantasy game that you feel like could be or should be updated? Or I don't know, are you taking a purist stance in that these things should exist kind of in their time bubble? In their active time bubble?
Wait. I don't know. I don't know if I want any other Final Fantasy game to be remade quite like this. I would like them to just all get the, a little polish, little script cleanup maybe.
Yeah.
Because like the original Final Fantasy VII localization wasn't great.
Why don't you start tinkering though?
Well, I mean, I think it's possible to do some updates. Like they did, this is not a Final Fantasy game, but Tactics Ogre, they remade for PSP like 10 years ago at this point, which I thought was just an incredible remake. They left they left the important stuff untouched and just gave everything like a nice new coat of paint. There was a new localization. They really spruced up the soundtrack. It was like, it's probably my gold standard for remakes or whatever you want to call them. They've attempted to remake or just update like Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6, or really just all of the pre-7 ones at this point, with mixed results. But if I was going to pick one that they should really focus on, it probably would be like Final Fantasy 6. That's one of my all-time favorites. It really hasn't seen as many like attempted remakes as a lot of the other earlier ones have gotten. And it's really like there are not a lot of great ways to play it at this point. I think, I was reading a recent thread on, somebody was just like, what's the best way to play Final Fantasy VI at this point? And I think the answer was like the Super NES Classic. The little mini console that came out a couple years ago.
Right.
But it's not like, I don't even know if you can play it on like PS4, or if you can, they just didn't recommend that version because it has issues.
Yeah, I think I think I maybe take a similar stance, is that I don't love old games, and I generally sort of bounce off them because I find them, I don't know, hard to control, hard to appreciate, or just feel like kind of fossils or artifacts in a lot of ways. And the few experiences I've had with games that I have appreciated kind of getting updated, I'm thinking about the Radiant Historia, sort of getting... And this is not a long generational leap, obviously, but from the DS to the 3DS kind of getting updated, where they just dumped all of the artwork out of that game, out of the original game, and put in some new weird, fancy anime artwork. And I was like, this is the same game, only in title.
Did they change a lot besides that, though?
Yeah, the character models, everything. No, I mean, the rest of the game was intact in every other way. I mean, they added stuff. They added DLC and a bunch of other sort of side missions and things like that. But the original artwork for all of the original characters in the DS game was dumped out and replaced with cutesy anime characters. Yeah. And then and I remember bitching about this on the show at the time. If you wanted the original artwork back, you had to pay an additional $5.
That's right.
Yep.
That's sketchy.
That's super sketchy, yeah. So for me, it was cool that like this game that I really liked on the DS, that at the time that it was published became hard to find, and over the years has sort of grown a following, and more people were like, no, this is a really good game, you should find a copy and play it. To sort of like, oh, cool, it's back out on the 3DS now, a console that a lot of people have, and it's accessible again and getting republished essentially, but it's not the same game.
Unless you pay like $4.99 on the eShop or whatever.
Right, unless you kick in an extra $5. So yeah, that's I don't know. I just feel like sometimes some of these developers just start tinkering too much, and it takes away from what made the original game. I don't know. Magical is not the right word, but memorable, notable.
Yeah.
I
think that's what happened with a few of the Final Fantasy remakes they attempted, like the Super Nintendo ones.
I think things like the Spyro Reignited trilogy and the other one that came out, the Medieval update. I think those were better. They were a little more sort of pure in their kind of reapproach of the source material. Yeah, and it helps to have obviously modern developers who knew what made that original game fun or unique.
Yeah. I have been talking, so my friend who got into Shadowbringers a few months ago, we've been talking about that game a lot, but also Final Fantasy VI comes up because I think that was for people who were playing Final Fantasy in that era, in the mid-90s, 6 tends to be a lot of people's favorites.
Mm-hmm.
But I just find myself thinking, what if... I mean, it was great when it came out. It was amazing. But compared to the games that are coming out now, like Final Fantasy 14 or 15, there was so much about it, the production, both because of the technology, and also because of where kind of game development was, that was just not as sophisticated as you would find in a game coming out now. The story and the script were really good, especially for the time. But just imagine what it would have been like if they had written it in 2020. I just feel like they would have put a lot more attention into different things than would have been possible on the in the Super Nintendo game, which I think would be really interesting.
Yeah. Yes.
So on some level, I would like to see a full blown multi-million-dollar budget like Final Fantasy VI remake, but I don't know if I want it to turn out like the 7 remake has so far.
That's fair.
It's a difficult kind of needle to thread when you're trying to design one of these remakes, I think.
Yeah. And maybe it would almost benefit from detouring so significantly from the source material that it doesn't beg this comparison, right? So that you would end up sort of being in a inspired by Final Fantasy VII kind of mode, but maybe that would unleash some unique developer to kind of take the nuts and bolts of this Final Fantasy game and turn it into something new and modern and I don't know, more uniquely character driven.
Mm-hmm. I would be open to if they said, we're going to remake Final Fantasy VI or whatever, insert your favorite game here. It's not going to be like a one-to-one kind of, I don't know, HD upgrading or whatever. We're just going to take the significant plot beats and whatever else, the really memorable aspects of it, and turn it into a new thing.
Yeah.
If that's how they presented it from the beginning, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
It has just been unclear to me what exactly their goal with the 7 remake has been. Just in terms of how are the battles going to work? What is the story going to look like? Because you're taking this 50 or 60 hour game that was across 3 PlayStation discs and turning it into a brand new thing, which is how many episodes long? No one knows at this point.
And at this point in kind of the generational jump, part 2 is clearly going to come out on the PS5.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be a mess.
Yep.
I mean, as much as I'd like to be optimistic about it, there's so much ambiguity around just how they're building this thing that doesn't inspire a lot of confidence.
All right. Well, it's good that you're not invested then, because you won't be heartbroken.
Man, I'm hoping people like the full game when it comes out, with the quote unquote full game. When it comes out next month. The other thing that I've seen is just a lot of people are going into it because it doesn't say part 1 on the front of the box or whatever. Right. People are just saying oh, I can't wait till we get to the casino later on in the game, and I'm just should we tell them? They might be waiting longer than they think.
Yeah, it's a little shady. They're not saying part 1. That's not.
It's a little sketchy.
Yeah, not cool. At some point, there's going to be a to be continued on a screen, and a lot of people are going to lose their mind.
Yeah. That is a very real thing that is absolutely going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, the demo's out.
It is.
Check it out.
Yeah. I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I think when it comes out, if I can finish everything else I'm playing at this point, maybe I'll go back and play the original just because it's been quite a while. I'd like to, refresh in my memory a little bit.
Yeah. Cool. Listen, I have one of those old little NES things. Maybe give it a shot.
Did you get the Super Nintendo one?
I have both of them, yeah.
Oh, you could play Final Fantasy VI?
Yeah, I could.
Oh.
What else is on this list, DJ? PC Building Simulator. What's that?
PC Building Simulator. Why was I talking about this a few weeks ago?
You were.
It came up for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I was, because I had talked about rebuilding my PC. Why was I talking about that? I don't know. For some reason, I got into my head. I was like, I've heard a lot about this game. I should actually sit down and play it sometime. And it's going to drive me insane if I don't remember why I got on this weird
what the
tangent.
context was.
Yeah. I'll remember it eventually. It's fine. But this weekend I put a little bit of time into PC Building Simulator, which you may or may not have heard of. It is a game about just building a computer. It's actually about building many computers. But I went into it just wondering, there's like a game component of it where you work in a PC repair shop and you have to take people's computers and figure out what's wrong with them and order new parts and do all that kind of stuff, which is fun. But I was also just wondering how well it works as like either an educational or like a kind of a reference tool.
I guess that's my sort of question coming at this. Is it meant to be something that teaches you to build your own PC someday, or is it just meant to be kind of a fun puzzle game?
I think it is both. It's not quite as in-depth as, I was hoping, like, best case scenario, you go into this, you have no idea how any piece of a computer works or how to put any of it together. And by the end of, I don't know, whatever tutorial mode they have, you are able to do that yourself. Which is not completely true, but I was very impressed by just how much they explain to you and how much they just walk you through. Like, there's an option on the menu when you start it up, which is just like how to build a PC. So that was the first thing I did. And it's actually a really nice, very easy to follow walkthrough of like all the key components in a computer that you're trying to build. And you can click on each one of them and it'll zoom in and give you even more detail on like the little pieces of that component. So it's like you're looking at the the motherboard or whatever, and you can like zoom in on one and spin it around and see what like all the slots mean or what these little bumps on the backside of it are or whatever.
Cool.
And then it'll walk you through just the basic PC setup or PC assembly, I guess, which is good. And by the end of it, I feel like you would have a basic understanding of just how to assemble a computer.
Yeah.
It even tells you how to put the little thermal cooling gel or whatever on the CPU, which I think is funny.
Cool. So as somebody who's built a PC, you find this accurate and satisfying.
Yeah. I was like, I've built a couple PCs in my time with, more or less have worked after I hit the power button. And I was like nodding my head. I was like, this sounds right. This sounds like they know what they're talking about. But I was really hoping it would just be like really gritty, like 1-to-1, here you have to connect all the cables and make sure everything is like going into the right place. Cause that's always been like the trickiest part for me. It always gets down to like connecting the power leads and going like, oh, I hope this is plugged into the right spot, which it doesn't.
Hold on to your butts. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little more abstract when you do it in this game, but it's fine, I think. I was really impressed by there's this like how to build a PC tutorial, and then there's this like the game mode, but then there's also just a free build mode where you can look up parts in their catalog and just assemble whatever computer you've like your dream computer essentially. And I was impressed by just how many parts they have in there. Because the first thing I tried to do is like, I just want to build the computer that I'm playing this game on and see how that works out. Because I still have like the parts list handy and most of it's relatively new. And they had like most of the parts in the catalog and you could like bring one up and look at a 3D model of it and spin it around and plug it into the case. It was very impressive.
Wow.
They didn't have it's not completely exhaustive. They don't have every single computer part that's ever been made, obviously. But you can get pretty close, which I thought was cool.
Excellent. So for somebody who's not built a PC before, would I find this accessible? Is it gamey enough to be interesting?
Yeah, I think you would actually be able to, get some value out of it. Cool. First of all, I think the tutorial is just very well done. And I don't know how interested you are in just how a computer works, but they present everything in a very easy to consume way. So afterwards, you're probably like, I don't know, maybe you're not ready to just order a bunch of parts off of Newegg or whatever. But you'd be like, okay, so now I know why it's important to put the spacers on the motherboard or whatever. Just in case you've ever been curious about it. And then the story mode, I only played it for a little bit, but it starts you off very doing very simple things like, oh, my hard drive is broken or whatever, so just order another one, replace it, send the computer back, that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. I didn't play it for too long because a lot of it just felt like work to me, which is, you are role-playing a computer repairman, I guess, so it kind of follows.
Sure.
But, after you get the computer, you order the parts off of a fake website in the game, they show up a day later, and then you have to, put the computer on the desk, unscrew all the little screws on the back panel, disconnect all the leads, reconnect everything, and, plug it in, make sure the computer boots. It felt like, I don't know, it was a little too much, just me trying to assemble a computer and crossing my fingers to make sure the whole thing, or crossing my fingers when I hit the power button to make sure it turns on.
A little too close to real for you, huh?
Yeah, it was just I've had one too many bad experiences that were very similar to this.
Gonna burn down the house.
Yeah, I'm really hoping, it's been fun so far, but I don't know if I would want to play it to the point where a computer shows up and they're just like, what's wrong with it? Oh, you figure it out. And at that point, I would just be like, no, I'm not getting paid for this, so I'm not going to do this.
Good times.
Yeah. But I thought it was super fun. It's a fun idea to have a thing where you build a computer inside your actual computer.
On your computer? Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
When you start up, when you go to the little office where you work and start up the main office computer, it loads up whatever you have as your actual desktop image on the virtual computer, which I thought was a little disconcerting. I was like, oh, okay. A lot of little fun details like that, though.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah. So if it sounds interesting to you, maybe check it out. It's on Steam, I believe. I don't know if it's on any other platforms at the moment.
Cool. The game that I have, I didn't spend a lot of time with because it's not a very long game. But one of the games that I played, I'm kind of in this mode, and I talked about this in the show in the past. I'm sampling games a little bit. I'm kind of going back to some stuff. I played a little time. Yeah, a little Persona 5 over the last couple of weeks. Back to Slay the Spire. Been playing quite a bit of Dragon Quest XI. I was thinking back to the list of kind of cozy games, wholesome games that were pitched to the audience during that panel that I went to at PAX East. One of the games that came up was recommended a couple of times was Florence. And I remember kind of hearing about it and seeing it on the eShop and had not played it myself. It's cheap. It's under $5. It was right there in the Nintendo eShop for me over the weekend, and I'm like, let's give it a shot. And so I played it, and it is very much a wholesome game. It's very much a cozy game. It's an adorable little kind of storytelling piece. About a young girl who is sort of reminiscing about her life and looking back on growing up and on her relationships, one relationship in particular, and how it sort of turned her into the person that she's become as an adult. And all of this is done through kind of interactive, kind of comic book panels almost, where You will swipe the screen to sort of go from one panel to the next to the next. Some panels have little pieces of interaction or little puzzles that you'll solve. She's an aspiring artist, so you will build kind of a catalog of artwork for her, essentially by you'll have kind of the outline of something on a canvas, and you'll drag paint into it and little icons into it, and then that becomes her artwork throughout the course of the game. In future comic book panels, it'll use the artwork that you co-created with Florence. It's cute. There is
kind of cool.
Yeah, a unique way that it handles dialogue. You will have occasional phone calls with your mom, who is, I guess it was never really clear to me if she is Japanese or Chinese, but only speaks to you in kanji characters. There's no voice acting. So what you see on the screen is kanji. And you are sort of left to sort of decipher a slight kind of translation of those things underneath your responses. But you're a bored teenager who doesn't want to have conversations on the phone with your mom. So you're like, I'm fine. I'll talk to you later. Everything is okay, Mom. And you're kind of picking, kind of shrug off kind of dialogue choices with your mom, who is clearly trying to be involved in her daughter's life. So it's a little kind of awkward role-playing moment, and I thought kind of real. It handles additional conversations in a unique way as you're in this relationship, as you're getting to know the person that you're dating, the boy that you're dating. Your conversations are like puzzles. So there'll be a little dialogue box, and there'll be 4 or 5 pieces that you drag into the dialogue box that fill it full of color. It's not words, it's just color. So as you sort of finish filling the box with the little puzzle pieces that fill it, that is essentially Florence speaking. And then his puzzle pieces will reassemble in terms of his response, and then that'll be his side of the conversation. So as you get further and further into the relationship, the conversation gets easier and the puzzle pieces get bigger. And essentially it's just 2 pieces putting it together, and the conversation comes faster and gets a little more easy. And then you're really just sort of dragging the entire thought bubble down into the dialogue for each of them, and it shows that they're kind of connecting, and the conversation's really flowing now. And I'm like, oh, that's a really kind of unique way of storytelling without having to actually sort of show the words that they're saying to each other, because that's kind of irrelevant. You get what's going on because the artwork is so good. I think it does a lot of really kind of cute and unique things to kind of illustrate the way that Florence kind of relates to the world and to the people in her life. I don't know. It was just this very like kind of cute thing. It was very much, like I said, a cozy, wholesome experience. It's fairly brief. It's kind of a series of vignettes, essentially, of her kind of looking back over the years. I think I got through it maybe hour and 15 minutes. I was sort of left thinking, oh, what a cute story. What a unique character. What a maybe autobiographical. I'm not sure where it kind of comes from. I know it's a very small development team. I think it's just 4 kind of artists and programmers kind of collaborated on this.
Weren't music they known for like doing something else? Like if there was some other game, or
this is their
was it like Monument Valley or something?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. It does. Maybe it's sort of the art devs from the Monument Valley team, but it says at the end, and I forget the name of the group that made this, but it says we are. Oh, I'm sorry to these guys for not remembering what their development house is called, but we are this group, and this is our first game.
Oh, okay, interesting.
It says that in the credits. Yeah. Music plays a big part. That's another thing. The boy that you're dating in the game is a musician. So there is a beautiful score that comes with it. And there's a lot of opportunities for you to just sort of listen and appreciate his playing without doing anything else, without sort of moving on or moving on to the next panel. You will just really have kind of a little cartoon of him playing the cello. With just a beautiful orchestral score behind it, with the cello as the lead. And that kind of it plays through much of the game through your time with him. It's really nice. It's just a really kind of beautiful little storytelling piece, little character-driven piece. I would recommend it to anybody who likes those kinds of things.
Nice.
Yeah.
There are a lot of little interludes like that in the Life is Strange series where, you can just, you'll be prompted to like sit down on a bench or something.
Mm-hmm.
And usually the character will just, like the camera will zoom way out and show your character just sitting there, taking in the scenery or whatever.
Enjoying the nature. Yeah, I remember that.
A musical track will start to play. It's kind of nice, very different in terms of like what you expect from video games.
That's I think that's probably one of the scenes that I like the most, that people seem to sort of like the most from The Last of Us. Yeah, without sort of getting into spoilery territory, the giraffe, if that means anything to anyone. And that's one of those scenes that you could stand there as long as you want and just sort of enjoy that moment until you hit a button to move on. Without the game really even egging you on. It doesn't, there's no sense of urgency to get out of that moment and get on with the thing. You can sort of just sit and enjoy it as long as you'd like.
Until you notice the zombie giraffe sneaking up behind you.
Right, exactly. To eat your face. Yep. But no, Florence was really cute and really kind of memorable. I think it did a lot of really unique things from a storytelling and from a storytelling standpoint that I really admire. So I would recommend.
Nice. It's been on my list for a while, so thanks for the reminder. I'll have to check it out soon.
Particularly for the price, and if you've got a free hour in your life, think of it as an episode of a TV show. Drop the couple of bucks and enjoy this thing.
You play this on Switch?
I did play it on Switch, yeah. And that's the thing that I actually, mental note, wanted to point out to everybody, that I would recommend strongly that you play this on a device with a touchscreen.
You play it on Switch touchscreen?
Yes, yeah, weird. Handheld. You can use controls, you can use thumbsticks and buttons to prompt your way through it, but it definitely lacks precision, I think. And just kind of holding it in your hand like a tablet, essentially, and using your finger to kind of navigate through some of the little puzzles and stuff like that, I think is the right way. No, I don't know if that's the thing I want to say, but I feel like that's the best way to play it.
The true way to play Florence.
Exactly. True Florence, hardcore Florence gamers will play it that way.
Yeah.
But I would definitely recommend a touchscreen.
Huh, interesting. Yeah. I don't know if I played any Switch games that were entirely touchscreen like that.
No, I immediately, once credit rolled, got a little handy wipe and wiped off my screen.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Put it back in the dock. I'm like, nope, no more of that. Felt dirty about it, but I think that was the smart way to approach it.
Nice. So, good pizza, great pizza.
Is it time for good pizza, great pizza? Yeah.
It's pizza time.
It's pizza.
So first of all, I remembered why I was talking about PC Building Simulator. It's because I played that Apple Arcade game about taking stuff apart and putting it back together again.
There you go.
Which reminds me, I was finally able to cancel my Apple Arcade. I thought
PC Building Simulator was that game.
Oh, no, I've just been playing it for 3 weeks. Like, why won't it end?
What was that game called?
It's similar. That was called Assemble with Care, I think.
There you go. That's right. That sounds right.
It was all right. Like a sappy story about friendship. Yeah. But also I canceled my Apple Arcade finally.
Hey, good for you.
And thank you. We've both been very productive. You beat Slay the Spire, and I canceled my Apple Arcade.
Adulting.
Yeah.
Yep.
But since then, I've just been like, what do I play next? What games are there on the phone? So I turned back to my favorite, the Wholesome Games Twitter account, and I was just like, I'm going to play the first thing that comes up. It was just this game about making pizzas in the pizza shop. I just thought, well, on some level, this is just looks like a silly mobile game, but why not? This account has been pretty spot on with the recommendations so far, so I'm going to check it out. And that is basically all it is. It's not a particularly deep game. It's just a game where you work in a pizza place and people come into your store who have apparently never ordered a pizza before in their life. So they will tell you things like, best case scenario, you get somebody who's like, I want a pepperoni pizza. And you're like, okay. So you go to the counter, you put down some dough, spread some sauce and cheese on it, which is very fun to do because you use the touchscreen. And you kind of like swirl it around, and then you just put pepperoni or whatever they ask for on top. And then bake it in the oven and give it to them, and it just kind of repeats from there. But then you get these customers who come in and they're like, mushroom. And you have the opportunity to be like, okay, or you can ask them what, which prompts them to maybe explain what their like barely English request for a pizza was supposed to mean. And it turns out that in this guy's case, he wants 3 mushroom pizzas. Just like, okay, maybe you should just say that the first time. So you end up fulfilling, or you end up trying to solve, like, not really puzzles necessarily, but just trying to make people's pizzas to order and keep them as happy as possible. So, they tip you well. You can keep your shop running. It's a very simple premise for a game, I feel like, but on some level, it's just fun to play a game where everybody is excited about pizza, because I feel like, one of the few remaining just universal good things in the world is pizza.
Yeah. There's no such thing as bad pizza, right?
Right. Everybody likes pizza, as far as I know. I've never met anybody who does not like a pizza.
Yeah. And even a mediocre pizza, I will still shovel in, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are some fun little, like, pizza shop management aspects to it, where you spend your tips to like upgrade your oven, purchase more toppings, so you can serve a wider variety of customers.
Yeah.
And in that, I kind of ran into like this whole just bizarre twist on how to play this game, because at some point I had purchased all the toppings available, so I'm just serving a weird combo of pizzas left and right, and the last topping left unpurchased is just olives.
Ugh.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of olives. I'll eat pizza all day. Just make sure there are no olives on it.
Yep. Gross.
And I'm just like, I'm fine running my pizza shop without olives. People can go elsewhere if they want a pizza with olives on it. I don't mind. I won't judge them.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, all right. Hit the next day button. And it's just business as usual. Occasionally some people ask for olives, and I'm just like, well, not here. But I forget who it is. There's like a rival pizza store owner who looks kind of like Wario, who comes in every once in a while just to harass you.
Does he twirl his mustache and say, "Wah"?
He's got kind of the mustache thing going on.
Yeah.
But it gets to the point where he's just like, well, I can't believe you've made it this far in your pizza career without selling olives. And first of all, I was impressed that the game was like paying attention to that. But at the same time, I was just like, maybe at this point I was beginning to think, I wonder if I'm just like locking myself out from progressing in this game because I haven't purchased this final ingredient. Because there is kind of a story component. And it is kind of as simple as the basic gameplay is, where they're like recurring customers that come into the shop. And they feel like they have very slight plot threads surrounding them. And I was just wondering, like, is something crazy going to happen in this game if I were to buy this final topping? But I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to stick to my principles, continue to not serve olives here. And who knows what I'm locking myself out of with the rest of this
Everyone
game.
has a bottom line, right, TJ?
Yeah. That's the line I won't cross.
Right.
It's the olive line. And it, like, eventually the Wario guy comes back in and he just says, I forget what his reasoning is. Like, I think he was going out of business or something. He was like, I'm just going to give you the olives.
You put him out of business.
Offered in your shop. And then there was no option to, like, decline the olives. So it's like, I do not approve of this whatsoever. I am being strong-armed into offering olives in the store. But it's the only way I can continue the game, because it's not even giving me the next day button unless I accept these olives. So I just begrudgingly do that. And lo and behold, it unlocked a bunch of new topic options. So there was some progress that I was cheating myself out of.
Wow.
And since then, I still just refuse to serve people olives. Like, they'll come in and ask for them, and I'm just like, I'd like a pepperoni, onion, and olive pizza, please. And I just go, what's a pepperoni, onion? Coming right up.
Get out.
They give me a real angry face when they're just like, well, it's fewer olives than I was hoping for, but whatever.
It's 100% less olives than I was hoping for.
Right. But, just because I was forcefully given a big box of olives to serve to people doesn't mean that I have to inflict people's pizzas with that.
Just let them go bad. Yep.
Yeah. So this has been a fun diversion. It's been just been interesting having just the extra layer of stubbornness on top of it with the Olive situation. But it is a very nice, wholesome game to distract yourself with.
Is it I'm looking it up on the eShop, not the eShop, the Google Play Shop, and it looks like it's free to play. When do they start asking you for money?
They do show an ad every once in a while. They were every day begins with like a news broadcast on the Pizza Network, which inevitably ends with like, and now a word from our sponsor, and you can choose to watch an ad for like extra funds or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just don't do that. I forget if I bought like, they had an introductory like $2 or $3 starter pack or whatever, like they do in many mobile games.
Right.
But it was unclear to me whether that would turn the ads on or turn the ads off. So I forget what I ended up doing. But occasionally it will just show you an ad, which is kind of a bummer, but it is free to start up.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, I bookmarked it. I mean, get around to it eventually.
It's good. It turns out it's just fun to make fake pizzas every once in a while.
It's fun to make real pizza, so making fake ones is going to be fun too.
There's no, like, occasionally somebody will come in and ask for a vegan pizza.
Oh.
And there's no, like, vegan cheese option, which is too bad. So you just give them this weird, like, cheeseless pizza. It's very strange. I don't think anybody would be happy with that. They were going out for a vegan pizza.
Yep. Yeah, it's vegan cheese is DLC. Yeah.
That would be interesting. Maybe it's further down the line once I've unlocked the rest of the ingredients.
Then this guy who looks suspicious like Randy shows up at your shop and is all, I don't have vegan cheese. Here's a box of it.
Look at this guy just whining all the time.
Yeah.
I was like, well, you could pretend that the cheese is vegan. Like maybe just operate a vegan pizza shop. But I think within the game, if you gave somebody a pizza full of imaginary vegan cheese and pepperoni, they would be upset.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's room for them to further expand on the toppings they offer.
Yeah. Bet you they got pineapple in there.
Oh, pineapple's in there, yeah.
Yeah.
Put pineapple on pizza all day.
Would you? Yeah, Sarah does too. I'm not a fan. I mean, I don't know if that I want to get angry and fight about it with people on the internet, but
I definitely don't need to hear people's opinions on pineapple on the internet. That is not something I need more of in my life.
Nope.
Some people just want to tell you, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. These are the people who think vegans are pushy.
The pineapple people are really the worst.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Pineapple and bacon people. Those people are out of control.
Yeah. Worse than vegans. Wait, what are the pineapple and bacon people?
Not necessarily like that combination, but bacon people or pineapple people.
Oh, yeah. No, bacon people are terrible.
Are very opinionated about their topping of choice.
Yeah. Like, we get it. Bacon's fine.
Yep.
Everybody knows about it.
While I'm in the Google Play Shop here, I did look up Florence. It is available on Android and iOS. So again, if you would prefer to play it on a touchscreen, maybe on your phone is the way to go. And it's $2.99 all in. You get the entire game for $3.
Nice.
And the name of the developer is Mountains. It is their first game, but he is the lead designer on and what's the game you said?
Good Pizza, Great Pizza.
Nope, the other one. Monument Valley.
He's the Monument Valley. Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so my apologies to them for not knowing their name before, but it is a beautiful game, and I would recommend people play it.
Nice.
Yeah. It says it came out on Valentine's Day, which is apropos since it's essentially a love story. Yeah. Cool. Is that the entire list? That's all the games, right?
That is all of them.
That's every game. Man, I hope
I was going to say, does this episode come out on Pi Day? Which would be very appropriate for making a bunch of pizzas, but I think we're not quite.
We're a little early for Pi Day, unfortunately. Although you could listen to this episode and go out on Pi Day and get some free pizza, because that's kind of the thing on Pi Day.
Where do they give free pizza on Pi Day?
There was a place, I think there was a slice shop that was doing free slices on Pi Day.
I have to go to Pennsylvania.
You don't have to.
I mean, it's a long way to go for a free slice.
It is, yeah. Yeah, you could just pay a couple bucks and get one. I'm sure there's discounts. It's got to be someplace near you. It's Mountain View.
Okay.
I was going to say you're in Mountain Valley, but that's a different thing.
Yeah, that's something else.
All right. Well, video games. What are you playing this week, DJ? What's on your radar?
Oh, you know what it is. I'm right at the end, maybe.
Death Stranding, maybe.
I might play the demo once or twice more. But yeah, I feel like I'm getting close to the end of Death Stranding.
I feel like you've said that. I feel like I'm getting close to the end of you being close to the end of Death Stranding.
I'm just always on the cusp, but I can't quite make it over.
Any day now, yeah.
Let me tell you, I got to the point where I was given this mission, and they're like, Sam, this is a very dangerous delivery mission. It's going to be one of the most difficult you have taken on at this point. And I look at the map, and it's like through all these like disgusting mountains. It's like super far. And I'm like, this is going to be miserable. But then because I set up this amazing zipline network that I talked about last time, I just like zipped 90% of the way there.
Yay.
And that was it.
Excellent. And that's it. That's the tweet.
That's the tweet. Send tweet.
Excellent. Well, good. I can't wait to hear you talk all about it next week.
Amazing what a little bit of like just foresight and planning.
Yeah, a little pre-planning. Yep. You gotta make a plan and then work your plan.
I got off the zip line and there were just a bunch of terrorists on the other end, which is like, oh, I didn't prepare for this. I'll be right back. And I just zip right back to the base and pick up a bunch of assault rifles. And I'm like, all right.
And then just shoot them all?
I just shot everybody.
Oh, well, good.
And I was like, this would have been a nightmare if I had to hike here and then discovered there were terrorists, but I could just get back on the zip line.
Just drops you right off in front of the gun shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Game has its moments.
All right. Well, tune in next week to hear DJ say this game has its moments. Until then, if you need any more video game hangover in your brain, we strongly suggest you follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover or head to our blog at VGHangover.com or hop into our Discord.
Yeah, what are we talking about in the Discord this week? Shadow Hearts.
Some old games that I didn't really know were even games. I thought you guys were just making up words.
We are just like half of the time, like every fifth game in there will be a fake game. We just want to see if you go along with it. We're like, oh,
Shadow Hearts Revengeance. Yep. Yeah. A bit of a retro kick lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a couple of folks in the Discord who are pretty avid collectors of old video games. So we have been enjoying their game hunting.
Yeah, it's cool to see what they dig up.
Yeah, and not pay $300 for.
Right. Yes, that's ideal.
Yeah. Inevitably, I got outbid. I'm like, well, good, because that was very expensive. But not my money, not my thing. So,
yeah,
yep. I don't know where I'm going with this. We'll be back next week. You should get on our Discord. It's infinitely more interesting than this outro. So we'll talk to you then. This is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.
What?
Later.